Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. Today it is time to do my top 10 books of 2019 video. I'm so excited to be doing this today. It took me quite a bit of time to try to collect this list because there's so many books that I really enjoyed throughout the year for many different reasons. And as difficult as it sometimes is to even just give a book a rating on its own, trying to compare completely different books to one another and try to figure out which one you like more than the other is really difficult. But I did try to rank these to some extent, so here we have it, my top 10 best books of 2019. Before we officially get started with the video, I'd love for you guys, if you've been watching my videos throughout the year, to leave your guesses in the comments as to what you think is gonna be my favorite book, my one favorite book of the year, okay? Leave your guesses down below. I'm so curious to see if any of you can guess it before watching the video. No cheating, please. We won't have that on my channel. But I'd love to know, so please do that and then come back and check out the reveal, basically. But now, without further ado, let's get started. On spot number 10, I have Dark Triumph by Robin Lefevers. This is the second book in the His Fair Assassin trilogy, and this trilogy as a whole is really cool and awesome. The first book is pretty good as well, but the second one is honestly the shining star of this series. Quick caveat, I haven't read the third one yet, but this one so far is perfection. These books are set in the 1400s in a part of France that was then called Brittany and was its own independent duchy. And we follow characters that are all daughters of death, and they're training at a convent to become assassins. So it's all about assassin nuns doing really kick-ass things, directing the course of political history, and this book actually draws upon a lot of actual history, which I think makes it all the more fascinating. All three books follow separate heroines, and in this one we follow Sibella, who is the daughter of a very evil man, and she's trying to overcome that past and her childhood with him while also trying to work to take him down. These books also all come with a romance that is cute and adorable and really cool, and overall I love how dark and deep and just engrossing it was. And honestly, I highly recommend reading the series as a whole, but particularly the second one. On place number 9, I have Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This is an adult romance novel that is so fun, so cute, so steamy, and just in general, such a perfect romance book. I think I'm gonna reread this until the day I die. This book follows Josh and Hazel, who've known each other all their lives but have always only been friends. But when they meet again as adults after college, they start to develop a pretty close friendship that kind of develops into something more. And as you might know, I love friends to lovers romance stories, because to me, relationships that are based on friendships are always the best, because you can really follow the characters, like forge this close connection to one another. And these two have so much chemistry, they go so well together, they're so cute. And oh my god, the moment when they finally consummate their relationship, it's just such perfection because of all that leads up to it, and it is so worth it. I love it. Highly recommend you check this out. On place number 8, we have The Diviners by Libba Bray. It took me until now to pick up this book, even though it's been out for 7 years, but it was worth the wait because the fourth one comes out in February. So guess who did it right, guys? Guess who did it right? This is a YA historical fiction paranormal fantasy story set in the 1920s in New York, and it follows a group of teenagers that all have special powers. Like one can, for example, touch objects and read the owner's history, another person can heal people, and so on and so forth. The series as a whole has an overarching mystery as to why paranormal events are increasing in frequency and intensity. There's more sightings of ghosts, more hauntings, and also these diviners' powers are also increasing. So there's definitely a long game happening as well, but each of these books in the series also focuses on a concrete mystery that actually comes to a conclusion. So I love the way that this story is told. I love all the characters. I love how in-depth we get with them, even though there's such a huge amount of them. And I also love how the historical elements of the 1920s come to life in this book. Liberace manages to take actual historical, political, and societal issues of the time and integrate them and interweave them so well and so seamlessly with this made-up story that you honestly almost can't tell the difference. And it's such a wonderful story all around. I highly recommend giving this one a try. On number 7, we have another fantasy, and this is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a standalone fairy tale-esque story following a girl called Agnieszka who lives in a village that's surrounded by the wood. And the wood is very dangerous. It keeps creeping closer and closer and closer to the human settlements and steals people and corrupts people, and it definitely has a very negative magical influence on everyone. The only one protecting the villagers from this danger is a wizard who lives in a tower, and every few years he takes one of the young women from the village as kind of his payment for his services to them. Agnieszka is the one picked this year, but when she goes to the tower, she discovers that she herself also has some magical abilities and starts working together with the wizard to defeat the woods. And oh my god, this is such a beautiful story. It's so whimsical, it's so well written. It honestly reads like a flat fairy tale, and I love everything about this. I'm definitely also going to be rereading this in the near future again. I just enjoyed this all around, and if you're into fairy tale like stories, I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it as well. Let's stay right on topic, why don't we? On place number 6, I have Entwined by Heather Dixon. This is a fairy tale retelling for the 12 Dancing Princesses, in which we follow this family of a king and his 12 daughters. Their mother has passed away, and since her death, the father has forbidden his daughters from dancing to sort of uphold the mourning for their mother. But dancing really is the only way they feel they can still connect to their mother, and so the daughters all sneak away every night to a hidden part of the castle where they can dance with a mysterious stranger who conjures up all sorts of decoration and music and like party setting for them basically to enjoy. Well, the story is great and the writing is wonderful. What really brought this book home for me is this family element of the story. You can really tell how close they all are to each other, how they've all suffered since the death of their mother and wife, and how they all deal with this grief in a different way. They struggle to come together again despite it, and in the end they do, and it's just such a beautiful and moving story, and I genuinely cried, like just, oh, it is so beautiful. Highly recommend this if you're a fairy tale lover, if you're a lover of like healthy, or at least in the end healthy family dynamics, and just beautiful stories all around. Highly recommend this one. For number 5, I have Bear Town by Fredrik Backman. This is a novel set in a small Swedish town called Bear Town, a town which is frankly obsessed to the point of insanity with the game of hockey. Everybody in town, whether they actually like hockey or don't, is involved in the junior team in some way. Their lives are affected by the town's passion for hockey in some way. And since it's junior hockey team, it's really the only thing the town is going for it. They pin all their hopes on it to win an upcoming match in order to put the town back on the map and scrounge up some funding for the town as a whole. However, at the beginning of the book, the star member of the hockey team does something horrible to a girl in the town, and this event basically splits the town clear down the middle between people who are passionate about hockey to the point where nothing else matters, and the people who want to sort of see Beartown be put back on the map, that they will overlook pretty much everything else, and the people who are convinced that despite the consequences, justice has to be done. So I thought this book was absolutely phenomenal. I love the writing style. Fredrik Backman has such a beautiful way with words. As you can see, I marked a bunch of passages that honestly I feel like you could copy paste them on your wall or actually have them tattooed on your body or something like that, because they're so beautiful, they're so memorable, and they convey so much meaning. It's honestly complete, like sometimes I was like shuddering because they were so moving and like so hitting the mark on what they were trying to say. I also love how this book deals with such a complex issue in such a well-rounded, well-thought-out, respectful way. It raises very interesting questions. It's very thought-provoking, and you as the reader are challenged to question the situation, because from the get-go you think there's a very clear-cut answer. This is the right answer and this is the wrong answer. But as you get to know these people and this town and everything surrounding the situation, you start to question, like, does bringing justice for one person outweigh the good for everyone? And there really isn't ever a clear-cut answer. And I love that about books, when they can really make you think, really question your firmly held beliefs, not necessarily change them, but definitely put them to the test. And I love that about this book. Totally adored this. Highly, highly recommend. Please read this if you haven't already. On place number 4, I have Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. In this book, we follow President Lincoln, who has recently lost his young son, Willie, to a disease. And because he cannot yet let go of his son completely, he keeps visiting his body in the family crypt and kind of talking to him. And because of this, Willie is stuck in a limbo world between life and death, because he still feels so strongly connected and drawn to life that he can't let go and fully pass on into the afterlife. And in this limbo world called the Bardo, he meets a lot of other people, other souls, other ghosts who are experiencing a similar thing because they also can't let go. And it's just such a beautiful story that deals with grief and the beauty of life. And honestly, again, I cried a lot during reading this. It really opens your eyes to what's important in life and to appreciate life as we have it right now, because you never know when it's going to be gone. And all in all, just a phenomenal story. Definitely worth your time. And now we're entering the top 3 with the bronze medal going to Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This book I read together with my friend Murphy, and I have very, very fond memories both of reading this book and of my buddy reading experience together with her, so that makes this book all the more special to me. This book is set in the 1960s in a small town in North Carolina, and we follow this girl called Kaya, who with her family lives in a very small hut in the marsh, quite far from the actual town. When she's only about 12 years old, her entire family one by one starts abandoning her and the hut, and only she is left and has to kind of fend for herself in the wild, forage for food, trade things with kind villagers, and just kind of get by all on her own. In the process of this, she discovers her love for she always knew she loved the marsh, but she discovers her love for really knowledge and discovering all that she can about the marsh and the animals and plant life living there. And eventually she starts studying biology and publishing books, which is a whole other story, but that's really awesome, I think. Anyway, the main plot of the book focuses on Kaya's relationship with 2 boys from the town, and eventually one of them ends up murdered, and the people in the town think that she did it. So the book basically follows her throughout her childhood growing up, all the way to this court trial of a crime that she may or may not have committed. I thought this book was so beautifully written. It's so atmospheric. Reading this book, I really felt like I was right there in the middle of the action, even though there wasn't a ton of action, but it really takes you in and surrounds you by this beautiful scenery with these beautiful descriptions. I absolutely adored this. I love learning about Kaya as a person. I loved how we could watch her grow throughout the years, discover herself, discover who she wanted to be and what she was interested in and all this stuff. And honestly, it's a wonderful book. If you haven't read this book yet, please do. You won't regret it. And the silver medal goes to The Grand Sophie by Georgette Hare. This is a historical Regency romance novel that follows a young woman called Sophie, whose father is a diplomat, and when he has to go abroad for a while, he asks his sister to take in Sophie and to let her live with them while he's gone. Her aunt's family is very traditional and straight-laced, I would say. They don't usually get much action, to say the least, but when Sophie whirls into their midst with all her flamboyant, self-determined, self-confident, vibrant personality, she really ends up mixing up their lives, and eventually she does fall in love with her cousin, which is a little iffy in the year 2019, but back then wasn't that uncommon, and I think we can all overlook it in favor of an otherwise phenomenal book. I love Georgette Hare's writing in general. I love how witty she is, how honestly I laugh out loud funny her books are at times, and the way that she plays with language and the setting and all that stuff. Oh my god, I am head over heels in love. I also love Sophie as a character. she's so interesting, and I honestly wish that we had like a lot more books that feature her instead of just this one. So now I'm gonna have to resort to rereading this for the rest of my life anytime I want to hang out with her. But she's a really great character. I love everything about this book. Highly recommend it if you need something to get you started into like historical romances that are actually good and not smutty but actually good, or you want to read something by Georgette Hare. Definitely go for this. I mean, I promise you, it is the best. And last but definitely not least, my favorite book I've read in 2019. That is definitely a very controversial opinion, but who am I if I don't have controversial opinions, right? I'm thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This book starts with a man and his new girlfriend sitting in the car, and they're on their way to meet his parents for the first time, or what, the girlfriend is going to meet his parents for the first time, but things quickly become weird and she starts to question what's going on and her boyfriend's intention and all that good stuff. I'm honestly not going to say more than that because it's super short and you don't want to know much going into this, I promise you, but personally I absolutely adored every single second of reading this. I loved the atmosphere, I loved the pacing, I loved how genuinely terrified I was for most of this book and how in the dark and like I had no clue where this was going right up until the very end, where I think honestly just at the perfect moment I figured out what was going on, and it was glorious how everything came together. And I just honestly believe that this is a work of utter genius, and if you haven't at least tried reading this, you're really missing out. I know a lot of people don't like it, they find it confusing and weird. More power to you for thinking that, but honestly, I absolutely adored this. Please read it. Just give it a try. Do it. Do it. Do it. You might regret it if you hate it, but I mean, you'd regret it more if you didn't read it, but would have loved it. Is that too confusing? Possibly, but you know what I mean. Just go and do it, please. I promise. It's so good. Oh my God. It's so freaking amazing. But that concludes this video of my very favorite books of the year 2019. Please leave a comment down below telling me what your favorite book was of the year. I'd love to know. Please give me more recommendations to check out in 2020. I'm always open for new ideas, so type away and let me know what you thought. While you're down there, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I hope to see you back very soon with more of my end of year wrap up videos. And until then, have a lovely week. Bye!